Okay, and welcome to the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association Board of County Commissioners District 3 debate. My name is Lynn Hertak, and I'm the Vice President of Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. And we have all 5 candidates for the district Democratic primary with us tonight, along with Ray Rowe from Creative Loafing. He's the editor-in-chief, and he's going to act as our admin tonight. He's our moderator. We really appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. And if you have questions for the future debates, please make sure that you send them to us on our Facebook page or through our email, oldseminoleheights@gmail.com. We have the District 5 School Board debate next Wednesday on the 15th, and District 7 School Board debate a Wednesday after on the 22nd. So please tune in for those debates as well. I'm going to turn it over to Ray now. Thank you. Are you ready?
Yeah. The candidates are ready. Thank you for having us here tonight, Lynn. As Lynn said, welcome to the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association's Board of County Commissioners District 3 debate. We very much appreciate the candidates' attendance tonight, especially considering how many debates they've been doing recently. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to questions asked of everyone. In addition, each candidate will receive a question specific to them and their experiences. Welcome, candidates. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself. I'd like to start with candidate Scott.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address Old Seminole Heights tonight. Again, my name is Thomas Scott. Let me just say that Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa is going through a major transformation. And so our community is in need of experienced leadership that can assure that District 3 residents are not left out nor left behind. And so we don't have time for on-the-job training. I am the person that's most ready and qualified to step in and hit the ground running. I have the experience of serving on the Board of County Commission for 10 years. I served 3 terms as chairman of the Board of County Commission. I served on Tampa City Council, and I served 3 terms as chairman for Tampa City Council. And I'm looking forward to going back to the county commission, working on those issues that are so important for the residents and citizens of District 3, affordable housing, economic development, transportation, healthcare, childcare, those services that are so important to the district and to the community. And so thank you again for this opportunity to be able to address you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Scott. Up next for an introduction, candidate White.
Good evening, everyone. Hello again. My name is Sky White, also a candidate for Hillsborough County Commission District 3. Many of you remember me from 2018 when I ran for a countywide seat, so I'm here again. I'm a nurse full-time, also a District 3 homeowner, lifelong Hillsborough County resident, looking to make tangible changes in our community. My campaign is fully grassroots. I'm actually the only candidate that's been nationally endorsed by Democracy for America, Run for Something, and also endorsed by State Representative Diane Hart and City Councilman Joe Citro. We recently reached a milestone of over 700 grassroots donations for our campaign. So we're looking to build momentum, and we want to make sure that we're not only making changes in the district, but we want to make sure that we're not continuing to elect the same people that's had the opportunity to make changes in our district and chose not to. I'm looking to be a strong advocate for affordable housing, inclusive transportation, and climate justice, and I hope to earn your support and earn your vote again. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky. Up next for our introduction, candidate Fernandez.
Thank you, Ray. And hello, Oceana. My name is Ric Fernandez. I'm a native, raised in Tampa Heights, Jesuit, University of Florida, and Stetson Law, round out my educational pedigree. I've made my living in the legal industry since 1978, starting in the Navy JAG. I've held various roles, president of the Hillsborough County Bar Association, president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association, and currently I'm vice chair of the MPO CAC. I was animated to enter the public arena in 2015 in opposition to FDOT's TBX plan. The pillars of our campaign really evolved from that process: enhancement and protection of neighborhoods, delivery of robust public transit to those neighborhoods, and when appropriate, conversion of Interstate 275 north of the downtown interchange to a grand boulevard, what we've now known as Boulevard Tampa, weaving District 3 together for the first time in generations. I'll address the deliverables either in response to questions or in the closing. I thank you very much, and I look forward to the evening.
Thanks, Rick. Up next for an intro, Councilman Reddick.
Thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank Old Seminole Heights. And let me just state firstly that in 2011, I was elected to the Tampa City Council. 2015, I was re-elected unopposed. I'm running for the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioner because I care. I care, and I have the passion to represent those that are my constituents in District 3. I did it on the Tampa City Council. I have a very strong voice. I have the experience. I have the proven track record, and I have the qualification to be that voice for my constituents in District 3. Yes, we have problems. Yes, we have concerns, but there's many things that we can do as a collective body if we work together to get things done. Because I want to see the quality of life for residents in District 3 be improved so they can live and work and play in a very stable and environmental community. And my passion will allow me to do that. If you review the accomplishment of all the candidates that are running for office for District 3, no one has accomplished as much as I accomplished 8 years on the Tampa City Council. So when we talk about experience, we talk about leadership, talk about what you have done. Because you can have leadership and experience, but you can also fail. And we have been having too many failures for those in our community. But I have proven that when the people in district, for my city council district needed a voice, I was there for them and I got things done. So vote for Frank Reddick for Tampa City Council. That was Hillsborough County Commission District 3.
Thank you, Councilman Reddick. And last introduction here from candidate Myers.
Good evening, and thank you, Old Seminole Heights, for having me. I'm candidate Gwen Myers, a Tampa native and retired. I'm running for Hillsborough County Commission District 3 because I have a passion for helping people address the county's urgent issues: transportation, affordable housing, and healthcare. The citizens of District 3 need a commissioner who will be accountable, address neighborhood and community issues, and give District 3 the opportunity to prosper like other districts of the county. Throughout my 25 years of working for Hillsborough County government, I worked in District 3. In the USF area, I managed the development of the Community Development Center, the Sheriff Command Station, and revitalized neighborhood with flooded drainage in the USF area. In the Progress Village area, I managed neighborhood retail, housing renovation, the building of the community center, and in Grant Park and Orient Park, I managed the building of the community center and the flood drainage projects. I'm the only candidate in this race who has qualified by petition. And so I look forward to representing Hillsborough County as a county commissioner because I have the experience of working with neighborhoods and communities in community engagement meetings as an employee of Hillsborough County. And with strong leadership, gets results. And thank you.
You're muted, Ray.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Ray.
Thanks for the introductions. As a reminder, we have 1 minute to answer the questions, and then if you're invoked, you'll get another 30 seconds. So forgive me if I interrupt you. We'll keep this going. So the first question, if the Supreme Court of Florida strikes down all for transportation, would you support a measure on county commission to reinstate it in whatever ways possible? If so, how would you allocate those resources? We'll go in a random order with each response. Councilman Reddick, you're up first.
Thank you for that question. Let me say, I'm very disappointed that the Supreme Court has taken a long time to make a decision, because it is stranding a lot of projects from being implemented in Hillsborough County. If I'm successful serving on the Board of County Commission, I will lead the effort. I will make the motion to reestablish the referendum. But this time, I want to make sure that we have the legal language placed in there, that we won't have to go through this type of challenge, because what the argument is the language in the referendum. And so I want to make sure that we get all the legal experts as possible to review it, and let's put it back on the ballot and ask the citizen. When you got 2/3 of the citizens voted for this, they deserve the right to have this referendum placed back on the ballot. And I will be the one that will lead that effort, and I will be the one that lead it very early in my tenure as a member of the Board of County Commission.
Thank you, Councilman. Up next to answer that question, candidate Myers.
I had the opportunity to work for All for Transportation, the volunteer for All for Transportation from day one, making sure we got the petition signed in all for the referendum to be placed on the 2018 ballot. I would lead the way and make sure that the 57% of the citizens who said they wanted to tax themselves, to make sure that that is on the ballot in 2022. That would be my first item as an elected official in November, to make sure that we can respond to what the citizens said, what they wanted to see in the transportation tax, and to make sure it is identical to what All for Transportation presented in 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next to answer the question, Sky White.
Yes, I would definitely support a second measure to go back onto the ballot for All for Transportation. It's funding that we absolutely need. Our county is growing, and we don't have consistent and reliable transportation. One of the things that I would allocate the money towards is green, clean transportation. We do not have any electric buses here in Hillsborough County, and we should actually be modeling what Pinellas County is doing. They seem to be leading the way in the state of Florida with consistent, reliable, clean energy transit. Also, we should put the money towards barriered bike lanes. I was riding around Seminole Heights over the weekend, and I observed the barriered bike lane that's on Violent Street. Putting money into Vision Zero so that our pedestrians, our bike riders have a safe way of getting from point A to point B. That's all a part of my inclusive transportation plan as well. And we need to make sure that we're replacing the bus locations that were removed. Where I live out in the District 3 Riverview side, the closest bus route to me is over 1.5 miles away. That's one thing that we need to do as far as making sure that we have inclusive transportation and putting the money where it needs to be.
Thank you. Thank you for the answers to those questions. And we're going to move to a candidate-specific question. This question is for Gwen Myers.
Excuse me. You want me to respond to that question?
Yes. Sorry about that. You're right. Actually, candidate Fernandez will be next. And then you, candidate Scott.
Thank you, Ray. Well, I think you're probably going to get close to universal agreement on this in terms of support. I hope so anyway. Absolutely. We should be putting it back on the ballot. I'm sorry that it's not going to be back on the ballot in 2020. We had a possible shot at that, but we lost that in April. So now we're looking 2 years hence if the Supreme Court goes the wrong way, in my estimation. Allocation, I would probably be biased toward staying very close to where the allocations are dictated in the referendum now. Those are the allocations that were approved by the majority of the voters at 57%, as Gwen said. I've been on the Independent Oversight Committee overseeing expenditures, sequestered though they are, for the last year plus, and I've seen what the individual funded agencies have done with their plans. I think they're on the right track. We just have to get the fuel in their tanks so they can do what it is they need to do for transit and for the people.
Thanks, Rick. Sorry about that. Thomas Scott.
Yes, I would definitely support it. To go back on my years, 3 terms as chairman of the board, fought hard to try to get it on the ballot. So I've already have a record of trying to push for the referendum. And so the referendum that did pass, that we'll all agree to that, is in the hands of the Supreme Court. Now, what you have to understand is the Supreme Court may strike it down, but the reason they're going to strike it down, is my understanding is because the Citizen Advisory Group cannot dictate the formula for the Board of County Commission, the elected body. Okay, so there is in lies the problem. It's not necessarily the language there; it is the formula, because the Citizen Advisory Group tried to dictate to an elected body the formula. I believe that we put it back on the ballot and we stick close to the formula that the members voted on, that the citizens voted on and passed already. And you got to look at it. $136 million will go to Hillsborough County. Another 50-something million go to the city of Tampa. 45% of it goes to Hart, okay, for transit and all of that. So there's a formula already in place. All we need to do is put it back on the ballot and stick close to that formula. There's another 15% in there that gives you the option of being able to do several other things that has not been identified. So there'll be resources and money available. I think that we should put it back on the ballot and stick close to the formula that's already been voted upon, except for the Board of County Commission need to do it.
May I correct something?
Yes, Councilman Reddick. 30 seconds.
Let me say it to Brother Scott here. Go read the Supreme Court decision, the preference on when it was brought before them. They talk about the language, okay? We was involved in this process when I was on the Tampa City Council and where I served as chair. So go review that language and the ruling of the Supreme Court before you make those type of statements. That's all I want to say.
Okay, and real quick, after Councilman Rick, did anybody else want to issue a 30-second reply?
Well, I need to respond to that because I have read that and have talked to attorneys who've been involved in the process. In fact, I met with an attorney yesterday and talked about that very issue. So it is the formula that the citizens, okay, put into the language, whereby they didn't have that power authority based on the charter and the Constitution. There lies the problem. In fact, they really could separate that out and approve the referendum on that, and then give the Board of County Commission the power to break the formula down. But then they're going to vote it all at once and send it back to the Board of County Commission.
Okay, sounds like we have not as much agreement as maybe Rick thought, but this should be an interesting conversation going forward, especially as we follow up with this debate. Let's move to a question for Gwen Myers, specifically. The city of Tampa and Hillsborough County have received millions in emergency funds to address getting the county's long-term homeless off the streets. But with thousands of residents looking at impending evictions, are the current proposals sufficient to address the problem? How would you allocate these resources?
I will allocate the resources to continue to help the homelessness. The county has done a remarkable job in helping homelessness. Each year it picks up more and more. I coordinate 2 homeless events at my church and bring in the city staff and county staff to help me with this event. With the additional dollars that are coming in now and finding more places as people lose their jobs and become homeless through COVID-19, the county has set up funds where that they can help pay the rent, the mortgage, our utility bills to help individuals stay wherever they're living. So I think that is remarkable on behalf of the county, and the city has done the same thing. Okay. With homelessness, the county and the city continue to give resources to help them. And a lot of times, as I talk with homeless people, they don't want to live somewhere else. They prefer to live on the street. I have a lady that's at my church right now. We got her housing. She's lived on the streets for so long, she's comfortable living there. When you talk with them, some of them will tell you, it's better for me out here than staying with a roof over my head. And so we need to make sure that we provide the services to the homelessness people as they're requesting from county and city. And thank you.
Thank you. So let's move into another question for all of the candidates. Rick, you're going to lead this one off. This is a question here. Are the impact fees imposed by the current commission enough? How would you limit sprawl and encourage density within the county? You have 1 minute.
Well, I think one of the things that we really need to focus on is the fact that in the conversation, you should always be talking about planning, housing, and resilience and sustainability and transportation. All those things need to be part of the conversation, and I'm not sure that they currently are. We also need to be focusing on the issues related to the urban service and the rural service boundaries, which don't seem to be honored, certainly not in practice, which is why we're having the issues with sprawl that we have. Within the urban service boundary, to my estimation, we should be focusing on transit-oriented development. Of course, to do that, we have to have robust transit first, but transit-oriented development, encouraging mixed-use development, affordable housing, mixed income development, and focusing our energies as well on local businesses and historic preservation, all of which lends fabric to the community. Out in the rural areas, there are folks that are very upset about the extension of sprawl into their areas and the infrastructure that they do not have to support it. So we need to be paying attention to them. There's a moratorium at present as far as development in the South County, and I think that's an appropriate imposition to let the pendulum move back a little bit closer to center.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Sky, how would you address this?
Sky or Scott?
Sky White.
Okay. I live out in the South County part of District 3, and we are consumed with congestion. Are the impact fees enough? They are for now. With the county growing at the rate that we're growing, this is something that more than likely needs to be revisited again, probably in another 20 years, to see whether or not the current impact fees would benefit the growth of the county. How to limit sprawl? I'm a big supporter of urban infill. We have a community out here off of Bloomingdale Avenue, the Winthrop community, which is a perfect example of what urban infill should look like. It includes a school, it includes bakeries, locally owned bakeries, a locally owned pizza store. It includes a Publix, it includes townhomes and single family homes as well. We need to be open to urban infill, work with developers who are looking to take on urban infill projects. And of course, we must have consistent and reliable transportation in order for this entire umbrella to come together.
Thank you, Sky. For this question, Frank Reddick.
Thank you. Until recently, when the commissioners voted to increase the impact fee, Hillsborough County has had one of the lowest impact fee in this region. Manatee, Pinellas, and other counties had a higher impact fee than what Hillsborough County was paying. What Hillsborough County need to do is to utilize the increase in those funds to build and restore the infrastructure. They got millions of infrastructure projects that are not being able to be done because it was counting on the all for transportation. So those funds need to be utilized for infrastructure improvement, because you look at unincorporated Hillsborough County, it saddened me when young kids have to walk on a grassy area to get to a bus stop, and then they can't cross the street because there's no crosswalks. And those are the things that need to be improved. So the additional fees should help that, and I think it will make a difference in those areas.
Thank you, Councilman. Up next to answer this question, Thomas Scott.
Hillsborough County has a comprehensive plan that helps determine growth, okay, and where that growth is going to go. And you have an urban service boundary to help determine that. I think that you have to make sure that we follow the comprehensive plan. I think that's important. Number two is the big issue is a lot of the growth that's taking place now is voted on and approved probably 20 years ago. So you need to understand what is happening. The growth that's going to hit Hillsborough County, what the board is voting on here recently, is going to come much, later on. Now, the impact fees cover various areas and various segments for development. For instance, fire rescue, the fire station. That fee had been $49 since 1985. They just raised it to $330 some, part of this whole impact fee raise that they did. Now, with that, keep in mind, you gotta understand that developers are not going to eat the impact fee. You know who's going to pay for that? The person who's buying the house. And so you got to be very cognizant of affordable housing, because when you add on $29,000 impact fee, when already a home is costing over $250,000, that's not affordable. And you add another $29,000, $30,000 on top of that. So you got to be able to balance that and make sure you do not affect affordable housing.
Thank you. And last to answer this question about impact fees and sprawl is Gwen Myers.
Okay, I support the BOCC where they just increased several impact fees. They had one for the school, the mobility fee, and for the parks. And also the way they voted for that as a phase in, they're going to come back next year to revisit that. We need to make sure in the sprawl area that we don't diminish our growth, and we should work with the developers who want to build. And I would like to see some of them come into District 3 where we're not having that opportunity to build with county dollars into District 3, where we can have the mixed incomes of multifamily homes as well as apartments. That is one of the things that we have gotten away from in Hillsborough County, is that we're building a low income area very low, but when we have the mixed income, the neighborhood looks very nice. So with the fees being increased through the impact fees, that is a part of the plan with the smart growth, that we have to plan better as we plan and work with the developers and work with the building associations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's move to a candidate-specific question here. This one's for Sky White. Sky, the question is, unlike the other candidates, you have not held a government job. How do you think your professional experience as a nurse prepares you to serve on the county commission? And is your lack of governmental experience a limitation or an asset?
I think there's only two of us who have held. I think the other three, myself, Rick, and Gwen, have not. Correct me if I'm wrong. My experience as a nurse actually shows my passion for people. I'm very passionate about people. I've been a nurse for 16 years. So I'm fighting for my patients during the week. I'm fighting for my community on the weekend. My experience of not being an elected official, I think it's time that we have to move away from electing career politicians, especially if we have not seen many changes. As I mentioned before, District 3, the most marginalized district, historically ignored, generationally oppressed, we have to move away from recycling politicians. We need to start electing people that's advocating for the community. The things that I've been doing while working as a nurse, as a mother, as a community organizer, I created a nonprofit, Reborn Tampa, that was created 8 years ago. We started teaching our kids their basic civil rights. I created a summer reading program for underperforming second and third graders. And it was those programs that led me to understand how local government works and the importance of being involved in local government. I would see it as an asset. I would see it as someone who's able to provide an insight for District 3 from a citizen's point of view, from a homeowner's point of view, from a mother's point of view, and not from the view of a politician.
Thank you. And let's move to our third question for all the candidates tonight. Thomas Scott, you're going to go first. Here's a question. The relationship between the governments of Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa has not always been warm. What would you do to ensure that there is a collegial and collaborative relationship between the city and the county?
I think if you look back at my record, and you're right on that question, I think you look back at my record, you'll see that I work well with the city government when I was on the Board of County Commission. With Dick Greco, we worked together in terms of approving the CRA, which is the Community Redevelopment Area for East Tampa, Ybor City, Channelside, Drew Park, downtown. So it takes the city government working with the Board of County Commission, because city government cannot create CRAs, redevelopment area, okay? Community redevelopment area. It's only done through the Board of County Commission. So that's one example. When you look at what we did in terms of Central Park, the development there, I was very involved in that CRA, getting the Ella homes built. That's part of that. And so you have to be able to build relationship with not only the other county commission, but also with the city government. In fact, not only just the city of Tampa, but you also have two other municipalities. You have Plant City as well as Temple Terrace. And so those entities, those agencies, those government, we used to come together, okay, and have regular meetings to talk about concerns for all of those municipalities. And so I look forward to working with them.
All right, thank you. Up next to answer this question about the relationship between the city and the county, Ric Fernandez.
Thank you, Ray. Well, the truth of that question was probably never more evident than, well, for those who were watching the emergency policy group meetings over the last several weeks. It reminds me of a bad Netflix series sometimes, the dysfunction there in terms of the back and forth and the loggerheads that they came to. It does make one wonder if there's anything that can create a collegial establishment between county and city. My thinking is, because I come from the neighborhood stakeholder environment, is that if we as leaders can bring our stakeholders from our various communities that we represent to the table, literally, to the chamber and to the podium, literally, I think we can bring pressure to bear on the mayor, on city council, and on county commission members to work together toward common goals and common good. If we don't have a common cause, what we wind up with are individual locations that are operating in a zero-sum environment. We're not going to be able to function in that way, or at least not function to get to any place that we want to go. So until we stitch the district and the city together, the county together toward common cause, we're not going to get where we need to be. And I think ultimately the citizens may have to lead in that regard to tell their elected officials what they want.
Thank you, Rick. Up next, answer the question, Gwen Myers.
Well, the relationship between county and city has been a good relationship. We've had the emergency management part that dealt with the hurricane. And now with COVID-19, okay, we probably could have developed a new group to take care of this. But because it was an emergency situation, that group came together. And because of that, we have seen a dysfunction in many meetings where they're at odds. But hopefully the language, as we work on our charter right now, that we would not have the issues between all the municipalities and that they can work together. Because most of the time, what you see on TV is more of a power struggle. And we don't need that. We need to be concerned about how we are going to help the citizens of our communities, not just in District 3, but the entire city and the unincorporated county. And that includes the city of Plant City and Temple Terrace, okay? So I would like to propose that we develop a new emergency group that would deal with issues that would come up and that are not a part of the emergency management, because that is what they have been directed by the charter to do when it's hurricane season. And thank you.
Thank you. Sky White, how would you work on the relationship between the city and the county?
Well, one thing I can say as a nurse, we have learned to be the peacemaker in the midst of chaos. What we need to do is make sure that city of Tampa, the county, we're all sitting at the table and we're working towards a common goal for the residents. Whatever it is that we come up with, it has to be a cohesive and holistic plan for all of the residents of Hillsborough County. Just as when I'm at work, we're working to save a life. We're all working together in this municipality to benefit our residents in Hillsborough County.
Thank you, Sky. And Councilman Reddick. How would you work on this relationship?
Well, let me say this first. One individual of a government entity cannot build that relationship between two government entities. You take, for example, when we had a major hurricane in this city, Bob Buckhorn wanted to establish a curfew. Mike Mayer said the county has the power to do that. With the emergency management team, James Castor wanted to also do a curfew. Les Miller said, you don't have the power to do that. What they're going to take is a collaborative effort of those two agencies, government agency, sitting at the table and building a plan. Well, who got the power or authority when these issues come up? And it's been going on for too long. And it's embarrassing when you stand back and look at this person, the mayor, think he or she has the power, and then the county administrator feel as though he has the power. There's got to be some legal document, if it's not already in place. Someone got to develop one so they can adhere to the policy, so we won't get this embarrassment when it comes down to these issues in the future.
Thank you, Councilman. Let's do an individual question here for Ric Fernandez. Ric, you've developed a reputation for your transit advocacy. How can you translate that advocacy into helping this neighborhood with other issues outside of transportation?
Well, the transit issue, which started with TBX, was a portal of entry for me into the public arena. There's no question about that. But there's been an evolution over the last 5 years that are reflected in is reflected in the pillars of the campaign. And among the deliverables in those pillars is an issue of quality of life. I mean, I talked there at considerable length about safe streets. I talk about lush tree canopies. I talk about Vision Zero. I talk about quality of life issues from beginning to end that address the life quality of people from 8 to 80. I talk about bike routes and greenways and the like, all of which I know are very, very important to my neighbors to the north as they are to people here in Tampa Heights. So it's not a monolithic approach that I have. TBX is certainly an issue, and it's an issue for us here in Tampa Heights like it is in Seminole Heights. But we do have a much broader perspective. And I believe with the help of the community in Seminole Heights and with the district writ large, that there is an opportunity to leverage for good quality of life growth that preserves life. And we can certainly stop focusing on the car-centric environment that we've been in for now generations, which frankly doesn't do Seminole Heights a great deal of good with the thoroughfares cutting through east, west, north, and south at high volume speeds. It's a dangerous place to be if you're anywhere near a curb or a sidewalk, and that certainly is not the goal, I think, for any of our neighborhoods as we seek walkability and safety.
All right, thank you, Ric. Moving to another question for all of the candidates. Here's the question here: Is District 3 prepared for the inevitable severe storm that will eventually hit our city one day? If not, why not? And what would you do as a commissioner to help improve our community's resiliency? Up first for this question is Gwen Myers.
Okay, Hillsborough County in District 3 is not prepared for a hurricane, not a major hurricane coming to District 3. As a former county employee, we looked at the various areas in the county, and District 3 was one of them, as well as part of South County when you look at the Progress Village is located in District 3. One of the things that we have to make sure is to continue to inform our residents that they have to be prepared, and when the county comes along to say you need to evacuate, you need to do so at that time. The preparedness, most people don't prepare for the hurricane when May comes and we begin to say June 1 is hurricane season. We wait right till we know the storm is coming, and then we begin to, I got to take care of things. And as a former county employee, going out asking people to leave because the storm is coming, it's a challenge. And so what the county needs to continue to do is to educate in every community meeting as an elected official when we'll hold quarterly meetings. That has to be a part so that people would understand what they need to do and how, if a hurricane hit, what services that the county is going to offer to them right away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thomas Scott, is District 3 ready? If not, why not? And what would you do as a commissioner to improve the communities?
Not only is District 3 not ready, I would say the whole county is not ready based on the fact, depends on what type of hurricane it is, what size it is. If it's a category 4 or 5, you're in serious trouble like New Orleans was, okay? If it come up the bay and downtown will be underwater, if you start talking about, 15, 20 feet storm surge. So let's face it, we've been blessed. The 40 years I've been here, we have not had a major hurricane directly hit. That's why the emergency policy group is very important, because the legislature dictate that formula and also give them instruction how they supposed to function. It has been instructed or has been set up through the legislature that the mayor is on that, the board of county commissioner, the sheriff, on down school board representative, and they are the ones basically to give direction and guidance to the county administrator to carry out, because historically there have always been issues with who had the power to do what. So it becomes important for that group to be ready, that group to give direction, and to make sure that we all, I think as Gwen Myers said, is following the evacuation part. Get out of town, evacuate, move swiftly and quickly.
Thank you. Rick, what do you have to say about this eventual storm that'll hit the district one day?
Well, unfortunately, I'd have to say no. I wish I could say something different. We have areas of this district with communities of concern now that have difficulty with access to transit, access to quality food. They live in food deserts, access to health care, access to basic shelter. And that's without a storm. So you get a Cat 4 or Cat 5 storm come through here. These good folks have nowhere to go. And when the storm comes through, it's very difficult for them to get out and get any help. If it's a bad enough storm, for people to get in. I was interested to hear, I was overhearing one of Walter Smith's programs on resiliency and sustainability a couple of weeks ago. And there was a gentleman there talking about Progress Village. I haven't walked in these particular shoes or seen it personally, but I understand that those good folks suffer, water incursion with a summer thunderstorm. And they live miles away from the nearest shelter, which I think is Middleton. And they really don't have any transit facility to get to Middleton. So where do they go when that 100-year storm comes through, which is likely to come in 5 years instead of 100? So no, we're not ready. And I don't see that we're doing anything to get ready yet.
All right. Councilman Reddick, how would you address this?
Let me just say that I agree with the majority of the things that Rick just stated. But what we fail to understand that in the city of Tampa, we have poor drainage system particularly in the Black community. And the reason why we have poor drainage system because no one has maintained and cleaned those systems in years. And when you got debris that are going down in those systems, and that's why you see the flooding. And when the city, when I was on the council, when we decided to do some of the cleaning of those drainage systems, and people in Black communities are paying for a drainage maintenance fee that have been assessed to them, but the drainage system are not being cleaned in the city. In addition to that, we have a lot of old wooden homes with aluminum roof and won't be able to sustain a major storm if it comes into those communities. And I think we'll be in trouble, but we need to start with cleaning up that drainage system first.
Thank you, Councilman. Last to answer this question, Sky White.
Yes. I guess I'm a little disappointed that no one mentioned the main reason that people are not able to evacuate is because they don't have the money. It takes money to evacuate, just like it takes money to quarantine. We've seen with COVID-19 just how fragile our economic system is, just how many people within the district, within Hillsborough County, they're living paycheck to paycheck. Most people were unable to get access to a mask. Most people were unable to get access to water and gas during Hurricane Irma, which was a Category 1. So when we say that people don't want to leave, it's because they don't have the money to leave. As I said, it takes money. So what we need to do once I'm elected is make sure that we're working with the EPG so that we're able to provide some sort of assistance to low-income families that don't have the means to live, even if it don't have the means to evacuate, even if it means getting other organizations, 501(c)(3)s involved to help us. But the fact of the matter is the district is poor and majority of the people do not have money to get out.
Thank you for that very specific and short response. Let's move to a question specifically for Thomas Scott. Everyone knows you've been elected before, but sorry, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. Everyone knows you've been elected before, but not as many people are familiar with what you actually accomplished in your terms in elected office. What specific accomplishments would you point at for voters, and what specific things did you leave unfinished?
Well, let's start with 40th Street. Are you familiar with how 40th Street was before it was redone? And we spent $126 million to get 40th Street. That it was only a 2-lane winding road, which caused a lot of accidents and death. So we were able to accomplish getting 40th Street done from Fowler Avenue all the way down to Hillsborough Avenue. So we'll just start with 40th Street, okay? Let's go from 40th Street to East Tampa CRA, which I drew. The boundaries is the largest CRA in the state of Florida that will realize over $200 million in the life of that community redevelopment area, which should bring growth and development into East Tampa as well. Not only that CRA, but Drew Park, okay, Ybor City, downtown, Channelside. You are talking millions of dollars that we've been a part of and have, all right, go out to Progress Village. The drainage were terrible when I became a county commissioner. We worked on improving, this is what some people have to understand, your infrastructure. Delaney Creek, we had to go in and spend millions of dollars to improve Delaney Creek so that it will eliminate the flooding in the Progress Village area. Look at the park that we just built over there. 100 and some acres. We put in $6.4 million to have that done. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, and you don't have enough time to talk about all the accomplishments that we have done for District 3 and for Hillsborough. You got to talk about your libraries. You got to talk about the Affordable Housing Committee, which now is being realized that has $10 million plus another 1.2 that we allowed and put in place before we left to fund affordable housing. That money had not been touched yet. So I could go on and on and on. There's a list of accomplishments that people may not know or not see.
It is a long list, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. What's something that you left unfinished that you wished you could have kind of finished off?
I think the affordable housing piece, it was structured that a county commission was set on the affordable housing committee and then would work with the board of county commission to put money in there. And unfortunately, that is a piece that I think that we need to do. I wish I could have stayed, but term limits, we have term limits. And so we have to honor the term limits. And so that would have been one of the things that I would have been able to do. And also continue to build economic development inside of District 3, which we created what we call economic zones in District 3 to bring in development and growth and to help the employment of residents in District 3.
All right, thank you. And our fifth question here tonight, current Commissioner Les Miller is rarely seen in Old Seminole Heights. If elected, how do you candidates plan to connect with this community? Up first, Sky White.
Yes. Once I'm elected, I will be holding quarterly town hall meetings. That goes back to making sure that we're electing someone who not only has the energy, the tenacity, and the fortitude to stay involved with the community. That is the number one effort that I'm going to make sure that the community understands what's going on in the county. I think one of the biggest things that elected officials do is that they rely on the people to come to them. Coming to me as your county commissioner should never be inconvenient. I mention all the time, I still work full time. So oftentimes it's difficult for me to go down to the county center on a Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. because I'm working and I have patients. So I'm going to host quarterly town hall meetings in the evenings with the residents to make sure that we're coming up with resolutions for their issues. I'm going to make sure that even speak with my Board of County Commission colleagues for hopefully a more evening meetings, maybe quarterly evening meetings so that people can come down to the county center as well. But the biggest thing is making sure that there is involvement and electing someone who's willing to be involved with the community and stay involved.
Thank you. Frank Reddick, how do you connect with the community?
Well, I have proven already that my visit to Seminole Heights, old Seminole Heights, because it was a part of my district as a member of the Tampa City Council. And when I served on the Tampa City Council, I visit every neighborhood association in my district on various occasions in order to hear their concern. I've been at Ric when he was over at Tampa Heights, and he can tell you how many times I've been over there. But I have been to every neighborhood meeting in my district, and I will continue to do that because I believe if you're elected to represent communities, you deserve to have that opportunity to give them a chance to voice their concerns to you. And that's the reason why I have over 6 neighborhood association presidents that have endorsed me for this seat, because they know I have been there for them and will continue to be there for them.
Thank you. Up next to answer this question about connecting with the community, Thomas Scott.
Yeah, I already have a record for that. When I was on the Board of County Commission, we had quarterly meetings throughout District 3 on a regular basis, meeting with it. In fact, we not only did I meet, but I carried staff with us so they could address any questions that the citizens have. Now, you got to keep in mind, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, they are under a municipality. And so therefore, you can come in, you can listen, you can talk to them, but you have to work with Tampa City Council and the mayor to be able to address their issues and concerns. No commissioner can come into another municipality and arbitrarily just do what they want to do. Can't do it, okay? And so therefore, you can come in, you can have meetings, you can meet with them, you can hear what the issues are, you can hear what the concerns are, but you must work with the Tampa City Council and with the mayor to be able to help resolve some of the issues and problems, which I've done in the past on my record for Seminole Heights and Tampa Heights and other neighborhoods.
Thank you. And Gwen Myers, how would you connect with Old Seminole Heights?
I would attend their monthly meeting or when they have quarterly meetings and work in conjunction with the city of Tampa. I do agree with Tom Scott. You cannot go into another jurisdiction to offer to say what services that you're going to do and what you're going to do. But I would also propose that we have noonday meetings for those that cannot come out in the evenings, and have a 6:30 or 7 o'clock meeting for those that come out in the afternoon, so that all the residents would be able to hear the same one voice. And while you're in the meeting, how you can help them and whatever services that they would need from the county.
Thank you. And last answer to this question about connecting with the Old Seminole Heights community, Ric Fernandez.
Thanks, Ray. I think it's important to understand where I come from in all of this. I'm not a politician. I come up from the neighborhood as a community activist and advocate and former president of the Civic Association in Tampa Heights. And as a result, I have a great appreciation for the importance of neighborhood associations and developing relationships with stakeholders. As I said earlier, if we're able to bring stakeholders together, we have a great deal of power in District 3. And that power can be leveraged. Seminole Heights is one of the more well-established neighborhoods in our district, and there's a great deal of political activism there. I have referred to myself as the 8 to 5 commissioner and the 5 to 9 commissioner. And the 5 to 9 piece of that is making an effort to get out into the community and go and attend the neighborhood association meetings, as has been referenced by others. But for me, it's a real thing because I've been going to neighborhood association meetings now for 8 years in Tampa Heights. And occasionally those efforts bring me into Seminole Heights, even over the last few years. So I would intend to continue to leverage on those relationships that have already been built. And I can assure you, at the end of a 2-year term, the people in District 3 are going to know who their commissioner is, whether they're in Progress Village, in Seminole Heights, or up in Forest Hills. I will be there, and I will have an open door policy. I'll put a pin in it there. I know I'm probably out of the 60 seconds.
Thanks, Rick. We're getting close to our time here, but we have a specific question for Councilman Reddick. Councilman,
I wanted to say something, Ray.
Oh.
Am I able to? 30-second response?
Yeah, a 30-second response. Sure.
I do want to say that we really have to get away from business as usual politics. I understand that you can't go into another municipality and make decisions, but there's nothing wrong with meeting with the community and finding out what their issues are. There's nothing wrong with taking those issues to the correct municipality to come together for a resolution. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I'm going to go to this neighborhood meeting association tonight just to check up on Seminole Heights or just to check up on Progress Village to see what more that I can do to help them. So we want to get away from the business as usual politics because we've seen that it has gotten us very, very little. And I'm looking to do something totally new, totally different, and that's being involved in the community as much as possible.
Would anybody like to respond?
Yeah, I like to say, I think that's what I said. I can't speak for nobody else, but I did say that I would meet with them and then meet with the entities or the persons that involve Tampa City Council and the mayor to work with solving the problem and the issue. So let me be clear. I think that that's not politics as usual. That is working with the community, working with the neighborhood association, and based on the charter and the municipality as a separate entity, you got to be able to work with those persons who are also involved and have been charged with those responsibilities.
Again, we're talking about meeting with the residents. Yes, we're going to meet with the mayor. Yes, we're going to meet with city council, but we need to be meeting with the residents as well.
I think I said residents and the neighborhood associations.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that particular question before we grill Councilman Reddick here with one for him?
Well, I think one of the things we have to, if you're accountable to the citizens, you would go to their monthly meetings or quarterly meetings to hear and address their concerns. I'll pick up the phone and call another municipality that is not in the service areas of the county. That's what you should do. I've done that representing Hillsborough County government as a former county employee. So that's what you have to do.
Thank you. Last call for any responses to that question.
Right?
Frank?
Rick.
Go ahead, Frank.
No, it's Ric Fernandez that's raising his hand.
Oh, sorry. Yep, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. Something that I think maybe gets missed just a little bit from some of the folks that I talked to in the district is just an understanding that there are actually 4 individuals on the Board of County Commission that look to the district for votes in their political future. It's not just about D3 as the single district member. There are the county-wides as well. And I think an effort being made in order to develop that relationship and to make sure that all of those people are responsive to the district and the various neighborhoods, I think that's important because it takes 4 votes to get anything done. And those votes are there. I don't know that all are as involved as I'm suggesting I would like to be, but I think they have the heart to do it. So it's just a matter of incentivizing it.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Anybody else before we move to this question for Councilman Reddick? Councilman Reddick.
I'm hoping they kept talking so I wouldn't have to get the question.
Yeah. Well, now the spotlight's on you. You championed many of the park and crosswalk improvements that you were able to bring to East Tampa during your tenure on City Council. How will you translate that success into assisting Old Seminole Heights with its infrastructure needs?
Well, that's where we go back to meeting with the residents in the Old Seminole Heights area to find out, to get an assessment of their needs. And once you develop that assessment of their needs, and the infrastructure is what they need, if they need crosswalk, if they need speed tables, if they need sidewalks, then you develop your plan of action to present that to the agency that represent those departments within the Board of County Commission. I was very successful in getting that done as a city councilman, because give me an example. When 3 young kids died trying to cross Hillsborough Avenue to go to a grocery store, I was very successful to get the Florida Department of Transportation and the city of Tampa to put crosswalks and beacon flashlight from Nebraska all the way down to 50th Street. And now, since that's been done, we haven't had one additional death of people crossing that highway. And that is what I would do in Seminole Heights: identify the needs, develop an assessment, and then get the job done. And I would assure you, the job will get done.
Thank you, Councilman. We are down to our last question tonight. And this is kind of an open-ended question, so I know we only have a minute. I'll give you a warning here if you do start to go over majorly. But the question is, what is the most creative policy solution that you have in your head that you'd like to see tried? I'll repeat that. What is the most creative policy solution that you have in your head that you'd like to see tried? Up first to answer this question, Gwen Myers.
One creative policy that we don't have, I would say the transportation. The county needs a better policy. We're one of the most underfunded areas in Hillsborough County when it comes to transportation and making transportation work in Hillsborough County. Being creative, I think the Board of County Commissioners need to step up its game to make sure. Now, even though the former board, but more the current board now, are beginning to shift that way to make sure we have more policies in places and being creative as it relates to improving Hillsborough County. So that's how I would like to see that being continued.
Thank you. Up next to talk about a creative policy solution in their head that they'd like to see tried, Sky White.
I would like to see more affordable housing assistance for the working middle class. People like myself in the middle class bracket find it difficult to come up with the down payment to buy a home. Most of those programs are more centered towards the low income earners, and it slowly weeds out the middle income earners. So once again, I plan on working with our state legislators to see what funds we can bring back from Tallahassee, building relationships, and most people don't like to hear this, but building relationships with your developers, your affordable housing developers, your nonprofit developers, so that we can bring in more affordable housing projects for the working middle class. Tightening the rope on those restrictions for the working middle class, and creating a program that has people that's earning at least up to $80,000 a year to be able to tap into those programs so that they can get a good piece of the American pie of home ownership. The issue out in Hillsborough County is the cost of money that it takes to rent an apartment. And those people are not able to save up the money for down payment because they're spending so much of their income on rent. So that's one of my most creative ideas and policies that I like to implement.
Thank you. Rick, what do you have in your head there as far as creative policy solutions that you'd like to try?
It's scary up there, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. I've got to go with Boulevard Tampa. I'm amazed how few questions I actually get on it. But Boulevard Tampa is the concept of converting Interstate 275 north of the downtown interchange. I've picked to Sly Avenue, converting it to a grand boulevard and a multimodal transit corridor that would connect all of the neighborhoods in the district and weave the district back together again in a way that it has not been since the 60s. It is, to me, one of the most transformative projects that has been discussed in my lifetime. I've lived in the shadow of this interstate basically for my entire life. I saw it built. We now have an opportunity with this vision to deconstruct and to begin to remove that damage over time. We can't do it next year, 5 years, even 10 years from now, but it can be a directional beacon for us. And if we do the right things now, that will allow for that kind of a project to take place in 10 or 15 years, like develop a fully robust multimodal transit system, we can in fact begin to take down the wall that separates east from west in this district. It separates us not just physically, but it separates us mentally. That to me is a policy that's worth fighting for.
Thanks, Rick. Councilman Reddick, what creative policy solution do you have that you'd like to see tried?
Number one is to invest additional fundings into neighborhoods. When we're talking about bringing in jobs, when we're talking about creating affordable homes, people observe those areas that currently exist in our communities. We're gonna have to spend resources to invest in those communities. Whether we got to rehab home, whether we got to do infrastructure improvement, whether we got to have better street lights, we've got to invest in our neighborhoods. And we are not doing that. Some neighborhoods see more quality investment than others, but we got to have equitable conscious distribution in neighborhoods, in particular low-income neighborhood, if we want to see affordable housing. Because no one gonna go in a low-income neighborhood and invest if they don't see a viable, stable solution in the future.
Thank you, Councilman. Thomas Scott.
Economic
solution.
Economic development, which includes job creation, affordable housing, and transportation infrastructure improvements. And you have to link all that when you start talking about economic development. Part of the job creation and economic development, there has to be equity involved, whereby no matter, which is a big issue today, of the color of your skin, if you are employed and you have a salary where you can take care of your family, take care of your children, be able to get to your job and your work, you will find that make a whole big difference in the life of family and people. People want a livable wage. People want to be able to get a job without being discriminated against, and to have equity of salary, and be able to buy a home because they have a job that can pay for that home. If I don't have a job, I can't get a home and I can't pay for a home. No, let's not even talk about trying to rent. And so I would say economic development, which includes job creation, affordable housing, and transportation infrastructure improvements.
Thank you. So
I have a response to that, Ray. Sure. I know the bishop mentioned that all you would need to do, regardless of your race, is get a job. Well, there's something called the racial wealth gap. Clearly, if a Black person were to get the job as a white person, even with the same education, they're not going to be paid the same. That is why Black and brown communities look worse than predominantly white communities. That's why there's something called redlining. Another thing I want to mention, the jobs that we have, do they pay enough for someone to buy a $250,000 home? Do they pay enough for someone to rent a one-bedroom apartment for $1,400 a month? So the issue is not just jobs, the issue is also racial inequality. And we need an elected official who's going to be able to say that, someone who's comfortable enough to say that, so that District 3 can finally prosper just like other districts in this county.
Well, Ray, maybe I think Sky is misunderstanding. I think I did say that regardless of your race, the color of your skin, there has to be equity when it comes to employment and job opportunity and a salary. I did make that say a salary that is comparable so that you can buy a house and pay for your house, take care of your family. That's all inclusive. Maybe she said a little different or wasn't listening, but I was very clear in saying that when you talk about equity in employment, equity related to job, equity in terms of affordable housing, all of that involves that no matter what the color of your skin is, and that takes in racial inequality.
Well, thank you for saying it. That's what needs to be said, racial inequality.
That's what I said at first. That's what I said at first. You maybe didn't hear me.
All right. Nice exchange. Very active conversation. I want to thank all of you for your time tonight. Obviously, the world is a crazy place, and the fact that we're doing this on the internet like this is proof of that. But it's very comforting to know that all of you are so passionate about this particular seat and willing to have these conversations on a Tuesday night and represent the people who elect you. Each candidate will have 1 minute for closing tonight. We're going to start with Rick. Rick, your minute starts now.
Thanks, Ray. When walking neighborhoods, I have run into a number of individuals in District 3, many of whom are very well informed politically, in my view, who had no idea that they actually lived in District 3 and who their county commissioner for District 3 was. For me, I viewed that as a lagging indicator of a problem. 2 years from now, I want the people in District 3 to know who I am, where they live, and what it is that I am going to do for them and they for the district. We need to work together in common cause to leverage the political power of this district. Working in isolation in a zero-sum environment is not the way to move forward. I hope to stitch District 3 back together again politically, in much the same way that Boulevard Tampa could stitch the district back together physically. I'm asking you to help me in that endeavor. I'm asking you to show up on August 18, if not before. I'm asking you to vote for yourself. Vote for the representation on that dais that you and this district and this neighborhood deserve. I'm asking for your vote. More importantly, I'm asking for your trust. I will work every single day to earn it. And once earned, I will work every single day to keep it. Ric Fernandez, District 3, County Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Up next, Gwen Myers.
Okay, for me, the citizens of District 3 need a commissioner who will be accountable. As I walked, as I rode around District 3, and as I attended community meetings, the citizens spoke and they said, we don't have a commissioner who is accountable to us. And so I want to be accountable to the citizens, to hear their concerns and address their concerns. Okay, because it's real important that we hear and address their concerns. And that means reporting back to them what the county has approved and what they have asked the county to do. It is real important that we have a new voice for District 3, a strong leadership that gets results. And I want District 3 to prosper like other districts of the county with good paying jobs, affordable housing, a safe and walkable community, and that CXX freight rail be converted to commuter rail to serve the people. It's all about the people in District 3. And tonight, I ask for your vote. Vote by mail or vote on August the 18th for Gwen Myers for Hillsborough County Commission, District 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next to give a 1 minute closing statement, Thomas Scott.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to address the old Seminole Heights neighborhood tonight. Let me just say, I've been out on the forefront. I have a good record, strong record of accomplishments. Not only that, but I was able to work with the Board of County Commission across the aisle, whether it was Democrats or Republicans, to get things done and accomplished on the Board of County Commission. That's why I can point to the Affordable Housing Committee. That's why I can point to 40th Street. That's how I can point to the different CRAs that bring in millions of dollars into the neighborhood and into the community. That's why I can point to Progress Village first class baseball recreation park center there. That's why I can point to when I was on city council, getting the Seminole Heights Garden Center redone, remodeled, and is one of your premier sites in Seminole Heights. And so I have a proven record of caring for people, making sure we accomplish and meet their needs. and get things done for the citizens of District 3. You can count on me. I have an open door policy, have always had that. I'm ready. I will listen and I will move forward and making things happen for District 3. I've been endorsed by Les Miller, Gwen Miller. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mike Suarez, Louis Vieira, Sheriff Chad Cronister, Pat Frank. I mean, I can go on down there. That's been about 15 different major endorsements. So thank you very much this evening. I look forward to going back to the County Commission and serving District 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Reddick, you're up for your closing statement.
Thank you. And thank you, Old Seminole Heights, for giving us the opportunity to share some of our views and concerns tonight. For 8 years, I had the pleasure of serving on the Tampa City Council. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the voters who gave me that opportunity to represent you. I tried to do my best to listen to your concerns and to make things change in the district that I represented, even though we had a strong mayor form of government. Any elected official, I always believe that a public servant should be someone that will listen and that you can trust. A public servant should not be a person that will guide you through principles that they don't believe in just to get your vote. I would not do that. I would not allow my integrity or my moral character to put me in that position, because you are the most important person that I want to represent. And I believe I have proven over the 8 years the accomplishment, and I'm not going to list all these accomplishments. I'm not going to list all these endorsements, because those endorsements don't mean nothing. Only people mean anything is the people in District 3, because you listen to the endorsement, those people don't live in District 3. So I don't want an outsider trying to tell me, influence the people in District 3 to vote for me, vote for that person. I want you because you believe in my ability to get the job done. And you believe in my faith and my trust, and that I will listen to you, and I will guarantee you, I'm not going to be a copycat. I'll be the person that get things done. And you just go and look at my record from a member of the Tampa City Council. So vote early, vote by absentee, but most importantly, vote for Frank Reddick, because that's your best choice. Thank you.
Thank you. And to close out the evening with a closing statement, Sky White.
Yes. I want to say experience means nothing if you have knowledge that you're not using to apply that experience. It means absolutely nothing if you haven't made change with that experience. I'm a lifelong Hillsborough County resident. District 3 has looked the exact same my entire 36 years of my life. And I don't know about the viewers or those watching, but I don't have another 36 years to wait. I want there to be tangible, quantifiable change today during this election. I have no plans on my son or my grandkids advocating for change that didn't happen over the course of my 36 years. District 3 not only includes East Tampa and West Tampa, it includes parts of Riverview, Brandon, and North Tampa. And we've seen how well those areas are doing. We've seen the attention those areas have received. And it's time that we start to elect somebody who's going to represent all of District 3, who's going to point out the inequalities and the disparities and come up with solutions to make sure that all of those residents are treated the exact same. I'm looking not only for District 3 to thrive, but for the county to thrive and for our residents to walk away with being able to feel and touch and see change, not just change that looks good on paper. So no, I don't have any political experience, but I have experience as a mother, as a District 3 homeowner, as a community organizer. I've been involved in the community advocating for the residents, which is why I've decided to run, why I've decided to be your fighter. You can learn more about me on my website at skyuwhite.com, learn more about my passion and my drive to make change here in this district.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the candidates for your time tonight. You can watch a playback of this on the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association's Facebook page. I want to thank the association for having this conversation. Look forward to some follow-ups and our next debate on Wednesday.